It's autumn. Out of all the seasons, autumn seems to be the most seasonal ready. Just calls for certain types of books, and because it's getting a little colder, people want to cozy up inside and want to do some reading. So let's look at some great autumnal / fall reads. The first one is a two-parter. The first part being Empire of the Vampire. J. Kristoff has such a way with the way he writes. He just creates amazing atmosphere. He's really known for his more flowery purple prose style, more so in the Nevernight Chronicles, but this one is a little more streamlined and fluid and slightly less metaphorical, but still very beautiful. Because of that, I did enjoy the prose style more in this book than in Nevernight. I also just preferred the story overall more than Nevernight. However, I loved Nevernight, but just Empire of the Vampire I thought was fantastic. This uses a framing narrative not unlike The Name of the Wind. So we follow Gabriel, the last Silver Saint, who is chained up in this prison telling his story to a vampire. This is sort of a dark coming of age story. It follows Gabriel and we kind of jump about the timeline a little. We have a very young Gabe starting off in this village, and then him being brought into the Order of Silver Saints, who are this kind of religious order that train to kill vampires. Because in this world there are families of vampires that are just plotting to kill all of mankind. And I really like how vampires are done in this story. They're not the sparkly pop culture ones that we've seen in recent years. Not really that recent anymore, but they're cool vampires. There's kind of different types of vampires. There's these families of vampires who are very clever, very smart, very powerful. And there's also this almost zombie-like vampire that's a lot more common, that just are very instinctual and not very smart. They just want to kill. It reminds me a lot of the World War Z, that but vampires instead of zombies. And in modern day, the vampires have won. Gabriel is the last Silver Saint. He's the last one left alive. It has been 27 years since the last sunrise. The world is in darkness and vampires reign. It was very bleak, thinking that they were going towards this hell on Earth, except it's not Earth. Great character work, very atmospheric world and writing style. The sequel, Empire of the Damned, is coming out next March, so what better time to jump on some vampires? Don't jump on vampires. That seems like bad advice, but just read the book. And I said this was a two-parter because I also want to include Nevernight. Kristoff is just great for fall and autumn. He's very atmospheric, very dark. Nevernight is similar in tone and writing style. However, this follows Mia, a girl who is training to become an assassin, all to get revenge on those who killed her family. So this has a school trope. It's a lot more metaphorical in writing style, as I said earlier. And I do think the first part of this book, I think it's in 3 or 4 parts, is quite a lot. We have a young Mia, you have a present day Mia, you also get footnotes, and you're learning about the world. And it's also very metaphorical, so it's getting used to the writing style. However, I do think it really comes into its own and becomes a lot better after that first part. It is a lot when you start it, however, stick with it. Once you get through that first part, I think it's a lot easier to read and also more entertaining. And it has a cat animal companion made of shadow. What more can you want? Now, the really cool thing about autumn / fall is a lot of people read different types of books. Some people love horror, some people love this more dark atmospheric reads. A lot of people seem to read murder mysteries, but there's also a sect of people who really enjoy cozy reads. And what's more iconic than Legends in Lattes? If you've somehow not heard of this, this is about Viv, a orc adventurer who's done with adventuring and wants to hang up the sword and open up a coffee shop. She tries to set one up in the town of Thun, however none of them have ever heard of coffee before. A novel of high fantasy and low stakes. This is just a lovely, nice, short, cozy read. If you just want to relax and read something nice and sweet and not too death, murder, darkness, gore, blood, This is such a sweet little read, and it is very short. I would also highly recommend the audiobook because it's read by Travis Baldree, who is the author. He was originally an audiobook narrator before he wrote this book, so he's absolutely terrific. He's one of my favorite audiobook narrators. He also does all of Will White's work, who is the author of the Cradle series. And just like Empire of the Vampire, the sequel, Bookshops and Bone Dust, is releasing in November. So this is a great time to pick up this series. Also, as a heads up, I often get questions about where I get my books and how I get some of these special editions. Most of them are from Broken Binding, and they are doing a special edition of Bookshops and Bone Dust, and it's on sale right now. So I'll leave the link to that in the description if you want to check it out. Very similar to this, it has nice stenciled blue edges and a nice design on the naked hardback. And in case you're someone who prefers the more murder mystery type stuff, I got a book for you too. One that I've not mentioned for a while, but I used to mention quite a lot, that I absolutely love. A Master of Djinn. This is a steampunk fantasy based in 1912 Cairo. Oh, listen to all those keywords. Beautiful. This is a sort of alternate history fantasy book when someone murders the members of a secret brotherhood dedicated to one of the most famous men in history, Al-Jahiz. Agent Fatima is called to the case. Al-Jahiz transformed the world 40 years ago when he opened up the veil between the magical and mundane realms before vanishing into the unknown. This murderer claims to be Al-Jahiz returned to condemn the modern age for its social oppressions. His dangerous magical abilities instigate unrest in the streets of Cairo that threatens to spill out onto the global stage. This is such a fun read. The world and the setting is something that really drew me to this book. And not only that, Clark does a fantastic job of really bringing it to life. Some of the set descriptions and the establishing passages to kind of build the world around the characters are just top notch. You can really hear the crackle of the cable cars flying overhead. You can smell the different spices at the market. Super fun mystery, fantastic characters, amazing world building. Highly recommend. Next on up, we have a book that I will probably completely mess up trying to explain because it's very difficult to try and explain, and that is The Ocean at the End of the Lane. That kind of rhymed, right? By Neil Gaiman. This is about a man who comes back to his old town for a funeral and reminisces about this bizarre string of memories he has about a girl who believed they had an ocean at the end of the lane, even though it's just a pond. Kind of. And so we get pulled back into this coming of age tale about this boy and all these strange happenings that he forgot about in his past. This is a magical realism more than it is fantasy, and like I said, it's very difficult to try and talk about because it's such a bizarre book. However, Neil Gaiman is a fantastic writer. This feels like you're being told a story. That sounds ridiculous because that's how every book is. You're being told a story, but it's just the voice and his prose style. It just feels like you're a kid again being read a story. I would also say you could check out the audiobook for this one because it's also read by the author, Neil Gaiman, and he does a fantastic job of reading his own works. I don't know how else to talk about it, so just go read it. The next spot on this list is kind of a cheat because I'm going to say Stephen King. He's the most obvious choice for an autumn fall read. He is the iconic author for horror novels. And because most of them are standalones, you can pretty much pick up anything, apart from his Dark Tower series, which is a series, and also is part of a bigger connected universe, so I definitely wouldn't recommend starting there. My favourite book from him has been, so far I've not read many of his books, It. I also think this is a fantastic place to start if you are a fantasy reader, because this feels very fantasy in the way it is structured and written. We have this dual narrative of these kids and then them as adults coming back to this town that's been haunted by an evil clown. King's writing really pulls you into the story. It's very fluid, very easy to read, and just immediately draws you in and sets the scene and the tone so well. The scenes are very creepy. I wouldn't say they're necessarily scary, but they are very creepy and do a really good job of making a very tense tone and atmosphere. And every time you're reading it, you're just waiting for something to happen that'll make you think, oh no, here we go again. The clown's back. And I did absolutely love this book. However, there is a scene at the end of the book, completely unnecessary, and I don't understand at all why it's there. It's not good. Doesn't even make sense narratively, but it's a very long book. So just pretend you didn't read that scene. I mean, why? There was no need. They could just keep going. I don't get it. Coming back to some vampires, we have A Witch's Sin by Daniel Green. This is a sci fantasy cyberpunk book with vampires. I'll just move on. That should be enough. That should be enough. You don't need to hear any more than that. It's great. This follows Taya Mint, an enforcer who is just trying to make her way in the world, but she gets pulled into this bigger scheme with huge stakes and implications, and it's just a great book. It's also a sort of murder mystery investigation type book, so it's just perfect for fall. Really does have everything for the autumnal fall bingo card. I did do a full reading vlog where you can get my more in-depth thoughts about the book as well. Taya Mint is a very troubled character, and following her arc throughout the book was really interesting. And I originally thought that this was going to be like a bizarre mix of having vampires in like a more sci-fi cyberpunk world. However, it fits so well together, and there is reasons behind where we got vampires from. The lore behind the world and the world building is so much deeper than I ever thought it would go to. Humankind was forced inside these huge mega structures because outside has become this type of wasteland, and there's all these little details in the mega structures too, with ads constantly popping up in your vision and being played to you all time. They even appear in your dreams, but you are able to pay for ad blockers. However, only the rich can then afford to block ads. And there's more to the world building that I don't want to spoil because it's really fun to unravel along with this mystery plot. It's a good one. It's a good one. I know I've cheated a couple times on this list already, but I'm going to cheat again and put a book that I've not read yet that I'm planning on reading this fall, and that is Uzumaki. This is my creepy plan read. It is a manga, and it's all to do with these creepy spirals. That's all I really know about it. But this is what I plan to read in October, and I will do a full video of it when I do it. That's pretty much it. What do you think is a great fall, autumn read? Please drop it in the comments below, and thank you very much for watching. A raw book that could make a good fall, autumn read too, because it's got shadow magic and it's dark and it's in a desert setting. But I'm not going to recommend my own book. It's an option though, you know, it's always there. Outro. Damn it, I should have included it on the list. That would have been good. It's even on Kindle Unlimited for free. Okay, I'll stop.